Okay, new rule. New rule. We've got a new rule on the show. Just stop playing Indiana in things.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for a reaction episode to another Oregon loss. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Ducks your first listen or your first view of the day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. So this was not, it was close at the half. It was close. You know, Indiana was that iconic meme of that guy. They had us in the first half, I'm not going to lie. And by had them, I mean Indiana's lead was only 6. It got a lot bigger. And I have to say, I kind of enjoyed watching the second half because obviously we haven't been able to see very much good basketball take place. When tuning into the Ducks, they haven't won a game since Maryland. That was, what are we up to, 10? Yeah, 10 losses in a row, and Indiana just, football was worse. Football was still worse. Because this one was close for a half, competitive for a half. Football was not at the half. So, by the way, you might be thinking if you're watching on YouTube, Spencer, why are you wearing the same jersey from yesterday? Psh, don't be ridiculous. This is a different jersey. Yesterday was Marshawn Lynch, today is Richard Sherman. I'm thinking a lot more about that than I am this Oregon basketball team. Doesn't mean I'm not thinking about them. So Indiana goes over 90 points, and that's been one of the most disappointing parts of the fall of Oregon basketball this year and what they just haven't been able to do consistently, and that's play defense. And I know it's tough when you don't have your best guys out there all the time. Defense is effort and communication. The team's more than athletic enough. They don't have the same shot blocking presence. Bittle, I don't think has ever gotten back to 100%. He's playing again, which is good. I don't think he's ever gotten back to being 100% since the ankle injury that kept him out for about a month. So the fun part about this game, honestly, the most fun thing, 92-74 is the final score. Lamar Wilkerson for Indiana went crazy. I thought they were going to leave him out there to get the record for points scored in Indiana's gym there in Bloomington. But he had 41 points on 20 shots. He made 9 free throws. He only missed 2. He had 6 threes. 41 points on 20 shots is outrageous efficiency. Indiana at one point in the second half was 17 of 19 from the floor. And the reason that is disappointing, I'm not surprised Oregon lost its 10th straight game at all. There's nothing surprising about that. I'm just hoping, frankly, Oregon will eventually get to 10 wins on the season. I don't know that they will. The disappointing part is you go to Bloomington, you play a pretty solid first half of basketball. Yeah, the offensive shortcomings are there. We know that without Shellstat on the floor. But then in the second half, the defensive effort was just lacking. This was the first time I felt watching Oregon play like there was a moment in the second half where they just kind of said, all right, this isn't it. It's just not our day. And look, you're at a point in the season, you know, now 1-12 in Big Ten play where it's really easy to feel that way. You'd like for guys to not get to that point. There were just moments where they were trying to cut away at the lead. They were working, and it was a 16-point deficit. They got it to 10, and Darren DeVries, Indiana's coach, took a timeout. And then after that, I just didn't sense the amount of intensity in chasing after loose balls or boxing out on rebounds and those sorts of things. It wasn't always there. And when you played 20 minutes of basketball on the road that gave you a chance to win, you would have liked to have seen a little bit more. And is it large-scale impactful? No, it's really not. It's just that I know the guys in that room are competitive. Every basketball player's really competitive. I just didn't see, and this has been a problem this year, I don't see a consistent desire to defend. Dana Altman's teams have always wanted to play defense. They've worked really hard. They've always been good at that end. The question was, how are they going to score? And sometimes Peyton Pritchard bails them out. Dylan Brooks bails them out. Chris Duarte carries the team. Eugene Omoruyi, all those sorts of guys. Jermaine Couisnard falls into that camp. And not only do they not have those guys, they don't have the defensive effort. When this season is all said and done, I think we're going to look back and say this wasn't just the worst season of the Dana Altman era. This will be the worst defensive season in the history of Oregon basketball under Dana Altman. It'll be the worst one. And the matchup zone that Dana Altman's run forever, it just doesn't click. It hasn't clicked for these guys. And I don't think that's even something you can attribute to the inconsistent lineups, the injuries they've suffered, and how few minutes relative to everybody else these guys have all played together when fully healthy. Because this has been something Dana Altman's had to deal with before in the program. Serious injuries. And the defense always finds a way, and the defense has just not found a way. Indiana was making some tough shots. Sure. They shot 60% from the field. 41% from three, and 27 free throws. Indiana made more free throws than Oregon attempted. Bittle got fouled a couple times and it wasn't called. Oregon at least protected the ball in this game, only 6 turnovers. But it just, man, I miss that energy, that intensity. I miss that just constant desire to not let a team score. I just don't see it as often. And maybe it's just that we're at that point in the season. You know, Bittle played well against Purdue, did not play well against Indiana. He was 3 of 14. He had 15 points and 8 rebounds. He had 6 assists, which is great. But yeah, it was not a good day. But you know what? Believe it or not, ever the optimist that I am, I have got a couple of good things to say about what happened in this Indiana game, which I will tell you about after I talk to you about our friends at Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what is on the screen. I got to shout out Indiana's guy, Lamar Wilkerson. I mean, 41 on 13 of 20. That is just some kind of performance. That is some Peyton Pritchard, Dylan Brooks sort of stuff. But arguably better. He was unbelievable and moved Indiana forward to a dominant win over the Ducks. Moments like this remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar, which this Oregon team unfortunately can't do. Takes the extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit mentality. Mazda puts that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there is more to you. This episode also brought to you by our friends at Wayfair. The new year's here. It's the perfect time to reset your routine, refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, or upgrading your work from home setup, yeah, let me tell you, work from home, pretty good deal. Wayfair is what you want to go with. Get organized, refreshed, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. And lastly, this reaction episode brought to you by our friends at TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. You don't have to spend hours figuring out forms. You upload your documents, go about your day, and you get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives you real peace of mind. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if the TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Yeah, let's just stop playing Indiana wholesale altogether. It clearly doesn't go well. I mean, you got a 10-point loss in football, a 34-point loss in football. I don't even remember. Block that game out of my memory. Think about things like the Super Bowl. Makes me happier. And now an 18-point loss in basketball. So, yeah, not great. Do I have positives, though? I do. I legitimately do. Only 6 turnovers. That is thumbs up. Thumbs up. 44 points in the second half. That's good. 74 points for this team. You know what it takes for this team without Shellstad, even with Bittle, to put up 74 points on a night where KJ Evans was in foul trouble and was limited to just 21 minutes and 6 points? It takes a real team effort. It also takes Waylon scoring the ball. So, one of the biggest changes from the early part of the season in the positive for Oregon, which there have been few and far between, but again, captain optimism over here, has been Waylon's play. And as I've said many times, I'm watching these games looking for any sign from a player that makes me go, he could have a role on a good team next year. Waylon is starting to show me that. It wasn't just the Rutgers game where he took over and Oregon unfortunately lost on the road. It wasn't just this game even. He was struggling adapting to American college basketball, which is at a higher level than a lot of professional leagues overseas. And that was evident early on. He was nervous catching the ball, shuffled his feet, turned it over a bunch, couldn't get his shot off all the time. He played great in this game. And he's a guy that when he gets in a rhythm, you can run the offense through. And look, he should not be a starting point guard. I'm not saying he's elevated to that level. On an NCAA tournament team, he's not a starting point guard because he's not consistent enough. He scored 15 points on the road against an NCAA tournament team in Indiana in a hostile environment. He scored 15 points in 21 minutes. He was 6 of 12 from the floor, 3 of 5 from 3. Now, he needs to get better finishing at the rim. He doesn't get to the free throw line hardly at all. Those are areas for growth. But if you're looking at him and saying, what do I want in a backup point guard? He's not an incredible passer all the time. Tonight, 3 assists, no turnovers. A guy that's capable of scoring in the mid to high teens or maybe 20 every now and then. And sometimes, he'll have 3 points on 1 of 7 shooting with 1 assist and 4 turnovers. That's why he's a backup point guard. But that's a legitimate role. It was a hole Oregon needed to fill this year when, we thought they might be at least a little better than this, and Shellstad needed support. Well, guess what? Presuming Jackson Shellstad returns, which he should, he's going to need a backup next year. And year 2, Waylon, I'm actually on board for that. I'm not saying it's the only option Oregon would potentially have. I'm just saying that if the Ducks decide to bring him back as the backup point guard for the 2026-27 season, I think that's a worthwhile endeavor. I really do. He can hit threes. He can make plays. He's tightened his handle. He's making better reads. He can score at all 3 levels. He's got a great mid-range game. He looks like the guy who we saw on film when he first committed to Oregon. That's what he has become. So I got to credit him and the work he's put in because he was basically a liability when he was on the floor to begin the season. I don't feel that now. I don't think that at all. So a little positivity to wrap today's show. Yeah, we all know this Oregon program right now needs all the positivity they could get. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.